before my head even hit the pavement, I was already like out of my body for sure. I could see what was happening below me, but I definitely had like a complete 360-degree vision. And not just that, I was throwing my consciousness all over the place. I saw the whole school. I'd never seen the other side of this school. I'm 6 years old. We only had our little section, and that was
Right.
it. Got off the bus, went into the class, and you know. So I saw the other side of the school, and I saw that they had basketball nets and all this stuff, and I was like, "Wow, that's interesting." No exaggeration when I tell you it's like a mom like what I grew up with hugging you, but times like a million or infinity.
Right.
You can't really put a level or number on it. It's
Yeah.
so expansive. It's so incredible. Yeah.
I want to welcome everybody back to another episode of The Soul Inspired. Today we have John Glasspoole with us. I'm really excited just finding out that I have a fellow musician with me. So didn't even know that about John, but John has had we're going to talk about his childhood near-death experience and possibly some other experiences in life. He also runs a podcast called Earth to the Other Side. So we'll dig into that a little bit. But first of all, John, thanks so much. Excited to get this conversation rolling with you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Nice to meet you, Joe.
Yeah, I right away I said like I could kind of feel your energy right away, and I was like somehow you're familiar. Maybe it's the musician in us. I don't know what that's about, but
Could
um,
be.
I look at now. This is interesting because you had a childhood NDE, and
Hmm.
one of the main questions I always start with most of my guests with is to give me some background on your childhood, like basically did you have faith? Did you have religion? Did you have anything like that in your childhood? But depending on when your NDE was, that might, change this question. So,
Well, I was 6, so it's pertinent. Yeah.
okay, so you were pretty young. Okay, so from birth up until 6, was there influence in your life or anything that would have, I'm just wondering if we could reflect on that a bit.
Yeah, it's a great question because, well, I mean, this sort of started in 1976. So just to preface a little bit, I was adopted as a baby. I was a newborn into a absolutely beautiful, wonderful family and had a pretty normal life for the most part. But my adopted parents were like English and Scottish, and they had actually 3 children of their own before my sister and I were adopted by them.
Okay.
And they specifically wanted visible minorities, which is what they got. And you'll understand why I'm telling you this later. But so, getting back to like 1976, it was in the schoolyard. I was in grade 1, and it was winter. You know what winter's like in Quebec,
Yes.
in Canada in general. So there's a lot of ice on the pavement in the schoolyard, and one of my friends just kind of like grabbed my hat, my toque, and ran off with it. So I started to chase him, and before my head even hit the pavement, I was already like out of my body for sure. And once I was out, it's weird. It's hard to explain because you don't. And all I did was really go with the moment. I was like really felt present, and I was just observing what was going on. So I could see what was happening below me, but I definitely had like a complete 360-degree vision. And not just that, I was throwing my consciousness all over the place. I saw the whole school. I'd never seen the other side of this school. I'm 6 years old. We only had our little section, and that was it.
Right.
Got off the bus, went into the class, and you know. So I saw the other side of the school, and I saw that they had basketball nets and all this stuff, and I was like, wow, that's interesting. But I still didn't make any real connection about where I was. I was just observing and soaking it in. But one thing I can tell you is I felt perfect. I felt absolutely perfect, ageless, no pain for sure. I didn't even remember the accident, what happened. But going back, so what had happened initially is I fell down, I hit the ice, and obviously had an experience which I'm going to get into. And then the next thing I remember, I was at this like desk. It wasn't my desk, someone else's desk, and feeling very, very nauseous. And by the way, I had a little bit of PTSD, I guess, on me too, because I didn't eat tuna or chocolate milk for that matter for like, I don't know, 12, 15 years, something like that,
Wow.
because that's what I had that day.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, it's crazy. Anyways, yeah, so I'm sitting at that desk feeling really nauseous and I end up throwing up and stuff. And then I think I went unconscious again because I did get into an ambulance apparently, which I have no recollection. When I woke up, there's all the niceties and my father asking me what happened, and then I explained everything that I just told you, and and except for the experience. And yeah, I didn't feel comfortable, I guess, at that time, speaking like that with my parents. We didn't talk about stuff like that, being
Right.
out of body and talking to higher beings. I mean, it's just not something when we spoke of. I think I'm not really sure, but I probably thought they would think I was crazy, and better just keep it from them. And
Wow.
so it's my guess that I sort of just repressed this whole thing because I don't recall ever telling anyone about it. And then when I told this story to friends about the just the falling on the ice and all this stuff without the experience part, that's how I told it. I never spoke about the NDE aspect of it. It was always just, so I completely like threw it out of my mind for years
Mhm.
until just quite recently when I had a meditation and everything was just instantly put in my head like it was like a memory, but it felt like a memory of like 15 minutes ago. It just was so fresh. I
Mhm.
remembered everything, and it was like pretty amazing because there was a lot of things that I just didn't remember, like realize. Like I told you about the other side of the school, and there was also the TA, the teacher's assistant. I saw him, picking me up and bringing me in the school. I didn't know he did that. Things like that were pretty cool.
Wow.
So getting back to the experience, so what happened was like, and now I know what downloads are like because this is exactly what happened to me when NDEers talk about getting downloads of information. This download came to me in a meditation. So it was like instantly, it's almost like comparing it to, I guess, amnesia, like, and then suddenly remembering everything,
Mhm.
because that's how it felt. It just suddenly remembered so many details, which I actually, some of which I validated later on. So yeah, so what happened was I'm in this space, I'm looking down, going around various areas of the school, and still not really making any connections. And then I start feeling that love feeling that everyone talks about who's had a near death experience before. So that was coming on really strong. And believe me when I tell you, I have like one of the, if not the most loving mother on the planet. I know what that kind of love is, but this was something incomparable, like something that it's very difficult to describe. I'm like, just thinking about it. And so I didn't really hear any voices, but I knew what was being said to me. And it was all very feeling dominated, the whole experience. Like you really felt things. And so what I had done was finally change perspectives. And I started seeing from my own like point of view, my own POV. And And then so it's, all I see are these kids kind of gathered around, and I see the TA, and I could feel and hear his thoughts, like everything he was thinking, and simultaneously hear what he was saying to the other kids. He was basically trying to calm down the other kids, and like make sure that they're not touching me or anything like that, because there was a lot of panic, obviously.
Yeah.
And but I could hear all his thoughts, how he felt responsible and how he was going to get in so much shit for this, and also the compassion that he had for me. He was really seriously worried, obviously. So And then I'm pretty sure I could hear the thoughts of the other kids and stuff too, but there wasn't that much going on. It was really between myself and the teacher's assistant. And then it was kind of up, down, and at one point when I was back up in that higher kind of perspective, I started hearing again like this being, and I don't know who it's to this day who this being was. It could have been my spirit guide. It could have been anyone. I really don't know. It felt like a very kind of someone in charge, but
Yeah.
I wouldn't say, source or God or anything. I don't know really. But whatever it was comforting and reassuring, and I heard sort of like, guidance to take a look and observe what I see. So I once again looked down and observing everything, looking at all the kids, what they're wearing, what they're doing, and I didn't really see much other than myself and this other kid that was in my class who was, I think, I think he was Sri Lankan, but he was definitely of color. And so I mentioned that. I'm like, I don't know, other than, these two kids that look a little different, than that's the one that's lying down there and the other guy. Because I still didn't make the connection that, who it was. And then I get this sort of affirmation, like, and confirmation that that's exactly what this is all about. And after that, what was sort of said to me was just remember that everyone is special, and you're just as special as everyone else, basically. That's what I was told.
Wow.
And that was that. Then I saw myself being carried in by the teacher's assistant into the school, and I never saw that before. And I don't know why that freaks me out more than anything else. It's weird. But that was basically the experience. There wasn't a whole, I didn't see any tunnel or light. I was thrown out of my body so instantaneously that I don't even remember like the action of coming out of my body. I just remember, not being in it and then being, or being in it and then being out of it. That was
Yeah.
it. It's very quick.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow. Um, yeah, couple thank you first of all for sharing that. I have a few
my
just
pleasure.
so I don't yeah, a few questions just so I don't forget them. And it's one of them. So I always find it fascinating when I hear about people who've had experiences where it's so sudden because I forget who I saw. I remember seeing a near-death experience on Oprah years ago, and it was some celebrity. I can't remember exactly who it was. An
Was
actress.
it that blonde actress?
Yes, I think so. I think
Why
so.
can't I remember her
I
name?
don't know.
Basic Instinct.
Yes, I think that's her. I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure. And from what I remember,
it's on the tip of my tongue.
she was
Starts with an
trying to.
S.
What's that?
Tip of my tongue. I think it starts with an S.
Yeah, I can't remember either. I can't remember, but all I remember her saying, and I remember it stuck with me, is she was like death or not death, but the other side isn't somewhere, it's right here.
Sharon
And
Stone.
Sharon Stone, that's
Yeah, I
it.
just looked it up. Yeah,
Yeah, that's
sorry.
it. And I'm pretty sure it was her that said this. And it was like she was there 1 second and then she was there again, but she was beside herself. Like she was there and there. And I remember I was like, and she was like, and it was like there was no ripping out of the body. Like some people have these experiences where they have like this complete, thing, which is,
Mm,
I don't know why that is. I don't know if it's like a slow transitional thing. Hers was quick the way yours sounds. I mean, obviously yours is fast because of the nature of the close call, right? I mean, you
mhm.
hit your head obviously enough that
Yeah.
it knocked you offline a little bit, and you were like, "All right, I'm gone for a moment." So I always find it
Yeah.
fascinating when people talk about that. The other thing is the thing you said that it stuck with you about you being carried in.
Hmm.
I think, my initial feeling with that was likely, had you, well, before I say this, did you know at that point that was you? Like that was who
Yeah,
you
yeah, yeah,
were? Yeah.
yeah. I had made the connection
The
at that point.
connection, right?
Yeah,
So
I
at
made
that,
the connection when they told me like you're just as special as everyone else, then I realized everything, who I
Hmm.
was and what happened. Yeah, I remembered
Yeah.
the hat and everything, the whole everything.
I
Yeah.
would just think that seeing yourself being cradled like that, running like you're looking at it like a body, and you're knowing you're still existing. So this is me, but oh wait, that's what I'm supposed to be. Like
Hmm.
that's me as well. And maybe there was like a caring towards it of this is my vehicle that I'm using, and this guy's taking care of it.
Yeah.
Like so there's probably a lot of feeling in there. And I could even tell when you were telling your story, as brief of it was, you got a little bit emotional, probably because you were feeling the
Mm.
emotion that you were going through. I always
Yeah.
find that's interesting too, because I've talked to
Anytime you
so
think
many.
about the love aspect of the experience,
Hmm.
it's like an attack of emotions. It's crazy.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
yet, like you said, you had this love for your parents, your mother, and these types of things, but
Hmm.
at the same time, like this kind of,
It's like that. I think I said it in my own NDE video for my channel. It's really no exaggeration when I tell you it's like a mom like what I grew up with hugging you, but times like a million or infinity, you know?
right.
You can't really put a level or number on it. It's
Yeah.
so expansive. It's so incredible. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. And you said so a few things you spoke about, right? You said ageless.
Hmm.
Can you explain what
Yeah.
you mean by that a little bit? What do you mean by
Yeah.
ageless?
Because, over here, or like on our planet Earth,
Hmm.
we obviously connect and we label each other with ages, right? I'm in my 50s, so on and so forth. But when I was disconnected from my body at that moment, I didn't feel like a little kid. I didn't have the mindset of a kid anymore.
Hmm.
And I don't feel like I knew everything either, or some people get all these big downloads and they know everything, and I understand what that's like because I've had that in meditation, but I didn't have that in this experience. I just didn't feel any age whatsoever. I was so, excuse me, so in the moment. I was so present. I've never been so present, I don't think.
Yeah.
Even in my best meditations, it was such a you you're so void of everything, but you have so much love filling the void, but you're
Hmm.
void of yourself, you're void of your ego. You're just, like I said, I didn't even know that was me on the ground, so I was so not ego whatsoever during that whole time.
Hmm.
So you don't have even a moment's, a second millimeter. No, I can't even speak right now. You don't have a second to even think about your age. It's
Hmm.
just not part of it, I
I'm
guess.
gonna I'm gonna pivot into this other question that just came to me. You said you felt yourself, like yourself, like right now you are talking to me. You are you. You are feeling like yourself is
Yeah, I'm John.
who John is, right?
Yeah.
When you were in that moment, and this might be a hard question to answer because it was so long ago, but was there a feeling of you being more of yourself than you are even now? Or like, was there a different feeling?
I felt more of a connected feeling. I felt connected to everything. You feel a connection to a source, like, and I'm not even saying that is God. It's a source of something, like it's big, and like you feel like you're back where you belong, and it's the way you're supposed to feel.
At any time in your NDE, did you feel any form of responsibility
What do you mean?
towards So, when you feel okay, so you said you're in your 50s. I don't know
Mm,
what life experience you've had. I have kids. I have responsibility towards my kids, or I might have a job
mm,
that I'm really responsible to be held accountable
mm,
for. There's like that responsible feeling. There's this responsibility that we walk around our day to day with, right?
mm.
When you were out of your body, did you feel a responsibility or did you just feel
No,
loved?
no responsibility whatsoever.
No.
Loved completely. Yeah, no. I was attached to absolutely nothing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I was curious about
Yeah.
that. I've never asked anybody that question, but right away I was
But
wondering
not
if,
to say, because I don't want your viewers to get confused here, because some people will get very discouraged when they hear this kind of thing. And I, including myself, I remember when I first heard it, oh, I didn't even think about my kids anymore. And I have kids, so I know what you're talking about. But it's not like that. Yes, maybe it is for a little bit while, but if I were to be presented with, I don't know, visions of my family and stuff, I would eventually, for sure, reconnect and understand my connections to those people.
hmm
It's not that it's gone completely. I imagine it could have easily, had I been out longer, I don't know, it could have happened, or maybe I would have even had a little tiny life review or life foreshadowing. Who knows?
hmm
You know?
Okay.
So it's not like you're absolutely disconnected, I guess. And it sounds like I'm contradicting myself now, but because you are, at least in the beginning, you feel just completely disconnected from any worries and concerns and attachments and that you
Mm.
had here. It's gone. It's like it never existed.
And I think
Yeah.
from what I can recall, just from speaking with so many people, that that responsibility factor, that attachment, generally comes online later as they're contemplating coming back, if they're given the choice,
I would
because then
understand that. Yeah.
that's when they think of their children, or they think of and they go, you know what, this will affect them. I can see this will happen. And you
Yeah.
didn't sound like you had that, but you were
No,
6 years old. So,
I
but you
was
may have seen
six.
you could have seen the influence it would have had on your parents, or it could have had,
Well,
you know,
that's it. Like I never had a moment where I almost feel bad for saying this, but like, yeah, I didn't have that moment where it's like, oh, my if I die and don't come back, my parents would be upset. But keep in mind as well, like there was no die death or anything either in my experience. Not for a second did I think, oh, I'm dead, or my
mm,
this experience is over. I was, like I said, every moment I was just in the moment. There was no thoughts of death, and feel like
right.
I died. That's for sure.
So
Yeah.
you still felt like you existed. You didn't feel like you had died.
No, I felt even more alive and connected than any other time in my life, really.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, you're just completely free. Just imagine being, I don't know if you ever astral projected or anything like that.
I
You ever
haven't. I'm
done
going
it?
to be digging into this because you keep bringing up this
Yeah.
meditation thing, and I'm going to be talking to you a little
Yeah.
bit about it as we go here. But I haven't astral projected. I've heard about the way it can, the effects that it can have on you. I've also spoken with people who've done like ayahuasca and all these different things where they've had
Mm.
some kind of other experiences that
Yeah.
give,
They have a
well,
breakthrough. It's pretty incredible. Yeah.
yeah. Not that being said, there's also a lot that comes with doing things like that. So it's not always a great experience, but the
No, for
ones that have
sure.
had, it's
I know
pretty
plenty who've
incredible.
had really bad ones,
Yeah. Yeah. And some of that's
and
what we're
others that
dealing
have had
with.
really good ones. So, I mean,
Yeah,
yeah.
well, what I find interesting, I am again, here goes another pivot, but I recently saw a TikTok video, and I don't go on TikTok very often, but I had a friend send it to me who knows I'm into this stuff, and he said, "You got to check this out." I want, kind of wanted me to my feedback type thing, and it was about a woman who um, was going down through a tough time, and she decided to start getting into meditation, start getting into learning how to um, open her third eye is the way she would say it. And she was now living in fear. And I'm still just learning about this. I don't know who this person is. I just thought it was a fascinating storyline because she was kind of saying, be careful what you get into and these kinds of things, that she dug in so deep and started seeing beings and was in these places that she doesn't like to be in. And people were saying it could be schizophrenia and all these different things to her. And she's like, I understand that that's how it can sound, but um, and my feeling immediately inside was, I don't know her, was, I think we talked about high, let's keep the vibe high, right? I think there's a vibrational aspect of who we are.
Hmm.
And when we're here on planet Earth, I don't think we're in the highest vibration possible, that's for sure.
No, it's very
So
dense.
we're
Yeah,
kind of stuck down here in this dense vibration. And I think that I wonder sometimes if the veil just opens, if we'd be in the greatest place, and somehow maybe death transfers into something else. Like maybe the death, like when you had that NDE, maybe there is this rising of vibration
yeah.
that's why. Because my question, the reason I'm bringing this up was how she was explaining how she had this terrible experience, these terrible experiences. She wished she could turn it off. She doesn't want to have these experiences anymore. She wants to be normal again.
Hmm.
And then I hear someone like yourself who's had an NDE, and you're like, the love was times a billion.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sitting here thinking, how is there these two completely different uh ideologies of what it felt like. Now, she didn't have an NDE from what I know, but she's kind of playing with things.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm wondering, and again, you don't know this whole thing, but I'm curious how that happens. How does someone have this positive experience, yet others can have these negative experiences? You may not know the answer to that, but I'm wondering, I'm curious about your
Well,
outlook
I
on
don't
that.
have the answer, but I have a hypothesis, I guess. It depends on what the headspace of the person, the soul is in the experience at the time
Hmm.
of you know, the death.
Or
It
the
could also
experience,
be,
right?
yeah, it could
Yeah.
also be dependent on how they die as well, or it could be part of the puzzle as well, somebody dying from getting hit by a Mack truck versus somebody who's had time to reflect and speak with family and maybe they're, whoever, whatever kind of spiritual guide they have, guidance, they have that time, you know. Sure, it's for a lot of people it's very painful, but it's not as traumatic in terms of like how fast it happens. They have a little bit of time. I think for those, it's a little maybe a smoother transition. But I think that either way, anyone that's not ready at that time of death, I think their soul goes into sort of a healing space either way. It
Hmm.
doesn't really go anywhere, but I think that it's going to be a very comforting space. But if you're in that traumatic, kind of state, and
Hmm.
you've lived a very, I don't know, life full of, doing bad things, you might create a space that is like that
Hmm.
and worse,
Yeah.
if you're feeling guilt or any other kind of really negative attachments, you can create this really horrible negative space and not even realize that it's you that's manifesting it. And I've heard stories of people that have done that and then cried out to Jesus or cried out to whomever, right? And
Mm.
suddenly were saved and,
Right.
so to speak, from that horrible experience that they were in, and usually brought into a very bright light space, space of love and whatever. So, I mean, I've heard quite a few times where people have had those kind of experiences. But
Yeah.
most of the time, for traumatic situations, I think we're put into what you probably are familiar with. It's referred to as the void, right?
Yeah.
So we're in this void. The void isn't. Someone on my channel said, I love the way she put it, and I'm probably going to misquote, but she said something along the lines of, I was in a void, but it was really void of nothing. It was so full of love, which is
Hmm.
sort of like what I experienced, right?
Right.
But I didn't have a black silky space, so it didn't feel like that. I had a sort of a blue light, I guess, and almost not the same blue as the sky. There was no sky, but it sort of had a bluey mist, I guess, to it, if anything. But
So you were in the space, but you could also see the surrounding at the same
oh yeah,
time of who you
yeah,
were. So you were in two spaces at once?
I was maybe in more. I don't know. I mean, like, it seemed like a lot of it kind of like the more I think about it, a lot of it could have happened all at the same time. Like my seeing the other side of the school and the schoolyard that I'd never seen before. I that could have taken place simultaneously with my being in my own point of view on the ground while I was looking at the other students and the teacher and hearing their thoughts and all that stuff. This could have all happened at the same time.
Right.
If, it could have. I don't know for sure if it did, but it could have. You could
Yeah.
throw your consciousness anywhere. I mean, as soon as I thought of where I wanted to throw it, it happened instantly.
I've
If I
heard of
wanted to
that.
be down there, it was
Yeah.
right away,
Yeah.
just a matter
Thoughts,
of
thoughts are
thought.
things or imagination. Like everything is imagination. Some people say there's all these different thoughts. Like we don't really
Yeah.
fully understand ourselves. And I wanted to say, to the prior conversation I was saying about the individual, from what I know, like she never died, but she got really down the rabbit hole of opening up her third eye, getting into the spiritual side of things. But she was in a really bad place. She was not in a
Yeah.
very happy place. So she did that because she was not in a happy place. She's like, I need to get out. So I think possibly what happened is she's in this bad place. She's like, I'm going to escape. And it was more of a, oh my gosh, I need to turn this off now, because she hasn't maybe fully come upward in her vibration. Again, this is all things that we need to understand but I've also talked to people who've said the same thing where even if they pass and they're in a bad space and there was this kind of more negative experience, which is it's actually quite rare from the experiences I've talked to. It's not as common, but the moment that they looked for love, the moment they looked for help, love, it was there. Like it was,
Mm.
and that's just my experience from people who have talked to me. I don't know if that's always the case. I don't, but I do believe that
Mm.
we're all part of something so beyond that we can't comprehend, and we're so much bigger than we are. Um,
Yeah, for
and
sure.
the voice you heard, did it sound familiar to you? Or was it like a voice, or
No.
was it just like a mental voice? Did it have
Yeah, there was
audible?
no actual voice. Like it's weird because sometimes when I'm remembering it or thinking about it, I'll put a voice to it, but I think the actual experience during it, there was no voice. It was just, it was even more powerful than how we communicate.
Hmm.
Like you and I we understand the same language and we can understand what we're saying to each other.
Right.
But over there, or wherever I was, there was no need to speak. The feeling was so strong. You knew exactly what was being said. It just, you know, there's no need for words, but it was beyond words,
Wow.
beyond words. It was, I guess, I mean, here it's energy. If it's actually energy or referred to that on the other side, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But if I were to describe it, in earthly terms, I guess it was a very energetic way of communicating, you
Hmm.
know. So, I mean, but I did, I'm telling you that one of the things they said was, oh, you're just as special as everyone else, and you always will be, yada yada. That kind of thing, even though I didn't hear a voice, I still know those words were said to me, you
Hmm.
know. It's just a knowing.
So
It's
it was kind of like a download to you that we're all equally as special, and you had
well,
that.
no, it wasn't a download to me. The download was the memory of everything, of the entire experience.
Right.
But no, it was clearly, the message was very, very clear.
Okay.
And when they asked me to observe and, tell us what you see down there, it was very clear what they asked me. I wasn't sure what I was looking for, but it was,
Right.
there was never any like, what was that? Excuse me. It was just so like communicating was so easy, so easy.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah, to me, based on even just talking to people, it sounds like you were in that in between, that like almost like the like I would say the doorstep of whatever is to
yeah.
come next, because it
Mm.
was maybe because of the type of NDE you had, you weren't completely gone, but maybe you were, but um obviously you came back without
Yeah,
any medical
yeah. And I
intervention.
doubt I was even out for very long. I mean, I don't really know. I couldn't tell you how long I was out for. I have no proof of any of that. But if I had to venture a guess, I would say, probably wasn't out for more than a minute, maybe
Right.
30 seconds, a minute max.
Right.
Yeah.
And yet it probably felt a lot longer when you had the
Oh
experience.
yeah, yeah, for sure. And I was in and out of consciousness as even after I woke up out of that experience, at least once, maybe twice. Because like I said, I don't remember the ambulance ride,
Yeah.
and it sucked because I remember being at the hospital, finding out that I was in an ambulance, and I'd always wanted to be in an ambulance, I was
Yeah.
6 years old. That's really cool.
Wow.
Give me a
Yeah.
fire truck, give me an ambulance. But I had like no memory of it at all.
That's
So I
crazy.
don't know. Did they give me medication? I don't know. Did I just pass out again? Who knows? A
Being
very
that you were six
mysterious
years
thing.
old and that it took you a while to have this meditation and come to the realization of the actual event of the whole you know experience that you had. Do you feel that that experience affected you like after like did it feel like when you came back, were you contemplating about what happened? I mean, you're 6 years old. I wouldn't expect that I'm sure you're just ready to go
When
home.
I
Were
was
you,
6, you're asking?
yeah. So when you were 6 years old afterwards, so you're now better.
Mm,
Were you thinking of what
not
happened?
at all. No.
Not at all. So you were able to live your childhood, teenage years into your 20s, whenever, I don't know when this all came back to you. Like, did you live your
No, it
whole
was
life
only a
not
few
re
years ago, but the thing is, it did change certain things for sure. And there's also a possibility of another experience that I had when I was less than 14 days old. That's a whole other episode.
Okay.
But I'm quite sure that either that one or the NDE opened a few little things here and there that were kind of unexplainable. Like I would
Mhm.
have a lot of premonitions, especially in high school, that I couldn't explain and didn't even understand for quite a while. And they never really seemed to serve any purpose whatsoever.
Yeah.
And then those
See,
stopped for
yeah.
quite a while, and then only started again like 20 years, 24 years later. No, 25 years later. Yeah, that's crazy. But it would happen gradually, and then I had this really big, huge premonition. Only about I guess probably 6, 7 years ago, and I haven't had one since. So it's really random, you
And the
know.
premonitions, were they on your own life or life events, like world events? Was it your
No.
own?
Well, yeah, the ones in high school, yes. I'll tell you about one of them.
Sure.
Well, what would happen generally in high school is like I would, if something were happening, like I had to be sent to the office, or somebody was calling me and I had to go to the office. Anytime I had to go to the office, I would think about the other time I went to the office, just naturally. You're thinking, oh, yeah, I'm going to the office. Oh, when was the last time I went, right? But when I was thinking about this, the memory that was coming to me was actually what was about to happen. But to me, it just felt like, oh, that must have happened like last week, you know? It
Mm.
felt totally normal. But then I would go into the office and everything would unfold, and it was like, oh my God, this is like exactly like this is weird, I remember the
Mhm.
first time it happened. And everything that I just remembered on the way there just boom, transpired in front of me. So that happened like a good half dozen times while I was in high school.
You're going to the office a lot.
Yeah,
No.
yeah. Well, it was usually like silly things like to
Yeah,
pick
no,
up a
I know.
form or whatever,
Right,
but
right,
yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So these premonitions came to you. What's really fascinating to me is you're sitting here telling me that most of these memories just came online. You mentioned that you're in your 50s, so like I'm thinking to myself, like I don't know if you likely don't know much about my story, but I've never had an NDE. I've had spiritual experiences that I
Hmm.
can't explain. I've mentioned in my episodes,
Okay.
but I've had moments in my life that I can say there was possibly an NDE, but I don't know because I had things happen,
Hmm.
whether it was a surgery, whether it was even just run. I remember I ran into a tree one time, and next thing you know, I'm awake. I'm back.
Yeah.
Um, and yet I've not remembered any of these things. But in my mid to late teens, I started getting this fear of death and wanted to understand what it all means, and I wanted to know everything. And that's what's led me to where I am now.
Hmm.
And sometimes I think like I hear your story, and I'm not your age yet and stuff, so I'm thinking this can happen at any time, that these memories can come back. And
Hmm.
you go, wow, I wonder how many people, even from your listening audience, my listening audience, you know, how many people seek out NDEs
Hmm.
because they're looking for answers to something, and possibly something's happened to them. You just don't know, because
Yeah,
like you're saying exactly
it's
that.
so possible. Yeah, for
It
sure.
happened when you were six, yet the memories are
Hmm.
just now coming online.
Yeah.
And then I think, people might say, well, why would that be? And I think, you're getting to live out your life, you know.
Mm. Look, I think that despite free will, there's a reason for everything. I don't think anything really happens by accident. That's just my opinion.
Yeah.
I think we have, well, I know we have free will, so we do have choices, and we could choose A, B, or C, and depending on what you choose, it may or may not have a different outcome. But prior to coming here, I think there's sort of like a blueprint, and
Hmm.
you know, we have we can see the various paths that are presented to us, but we don't know which ones we're going to choose when we're living this existence. So now, I mean, that's just how I feel. I can't, prove any of that. I've had a lot of meditations where I've seen it. I've seen plannings of different lifetimes and stuff, so it feels very real to me. But I was going to suggest to you, and do you already meditate?
Not outside of music. Not outside of music. I've always said music's my
Mm.
meditation, but
It
I'm
is.
starting I'm
Yeah.
starting to realize something a little bit different though about music, in that um because the way I write is I go into a space. I'll start playing the chords I want to play. I'll start feeling the energy of the music, and then I just freestyle the words out. And generally, 90% of the time, that's how the songs end up coming out. And so I've
Hmm.
known that since I was 11 years old writing songs, that I have this gift in me of I can go into the space and I can pull things out naturally from a musical place. So I always looked at it like that's my meditative space.
Hmm.
Um, so I understand that space of meditation, but I do believe there's another form of meditation, more in a calmness form, and that's something I still have to develop, and I'm not sure how to. I have a very busy mind, and I think that's
Yeah.
why I go to the music, because my music distracts me from
Yeah, it
my mind.
definitely is very
Right.
meditative. Yeah.
So, and sometimes I've done chants with my students that I coach and things, and I'll be like gone. And then I'm like,
Mm.
whoa, did I just fall asleep or was I gone? So I know
Right.
I literally feel the vibration of music through me. And I probably attest to this being a musician. If there's something there.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, that's
Especially
why I
when you're
wanted to,
making those connections with the other musicians too. It's a very spiritual feeling. I find it's a
yeah.
spiritual connection, and it's you don't have to think about it. It's just there. It's beautiful. It's nice. It's very similar to meditation, I find.
How would you compare the two though, now that you're working with meditation more? Like, what did you have to do
Yeah.
to kind of get
Wow.
into it?
Well, see, because I don't play music as much anymore, right? I think that if I was playing as much as I used to, I would probably meditate less. Quite sure that I would. But for sure, they are different beasts. They're similar. They share similarities, but they're not the same. You'll have a different experience in both, and you'll have so many different experiences in both, like both on the music side and on the meditation side. Like my meditation could be completely different than yours. But what you need to, I guess, let go of is the preconception, or that you have to not have a busy mind, because that sort of just is going to heal itself eventually. But going in there thinking, okay, stop thinking, I got to clear my thoughts, is such a waste of time.
Yeah.
I wouldn't bother doing that. The most important thing to do is your breathing and grounding, to ground yourself. So You want to ground yourself from the bottom into the earth, to Mother Earth, and upwards, however you want to visualize it. We can talk about that after the show if you want, or another day, into, that space. So once you're grounded, the breathing is really what's most important. So you want to do 4 to 6 really deep breaths if you can. Not everybody can do this. Some people have asthma, I understand. But if you're able to do it, you take a really deep breath through your nostrils. Um, it takes about, let's say, I don't know, maybe 5, 6 seconds, taking that deep breath inward through your nostrils, and then you hold it for a good 4 seconds. I even counted in the beginning, like 1,000, 2, 1,000,
Hmm.
and then you exhale through your mouth, super slow, like exaggeratedly slow. Just let it out super slow until it's completely gone. And in the beginning, it's not going to be that easy to do it consecutively. So you want to just breathe normally for a bit. If you're not comfortable in taking another one right away, just breathe normally. And when you're ready, do it again until you've done like 6 of them. And
Right.
at this point, you may or may not start to feel much more relaxed. Most likely you will. Your head probably will be a little clearer, although you may not notice, and that doesn't matter. But what you also may notice is that your body is starting to, like, it's like a sleep paralysis. But I don't want to like attach any negative stuff to this sleep paralysis that's out there.
Yeah.
It's literally what we all experience every single night, okay, when we dream. Otherwise, we would be running around like maniacs. So everyone does it every night, but this is doing it with intention and keeping your conscious, mind awake. So you're awake, but your body's like literally falling asleep. So when that happens, you feel a floating sensation or lack of any sensation. You don't feel your body, so you feel kind of like you're floating. And I guess at that point, you just focus on your breath, just your normal breath, normal breathing. And if you want to do an exercise on thoughts, what I usually tell people is you have a vision. You just use, like, for me, I use like a raked stage, like a theater, and I visualize a stage down below and a big whiteboard with my thought on it.
Hmm.
So you're going to be thinking so many things. You just grab one. It doesn't matter what the thought is. Just put it onto the whiteboard, and I visualize this big, big, massive hand, not attached to anything, just pushing the thought off the stage until it's gone. And then, boom, another one's going to come up. It's just, you do that over and over again. And the more you do this, every meditation that you do, you're going to notice that you're doing that less and less. So you have less going on the board until you're not even using the board anymore. So,
Mm. I like
but
that.
never expect to, vacate your mind of thoughts. It's just, I don't even know if Buddha could do that. It's just not.
It's not who we are as human,
It's
right?
not.
It's
It's
part of our
not.
human
Shouldn't be the
experience.
end game and your end goal.
Mhm.
There's a lot of other goals, better goals that you can attribute to meditation. But really, it's to give yourself clarity of thought. And it's really good for anxiety. If you're an anxious person, if you have trouble sleeping, it's great for that.
Mhm.
You can put away the Ativan or whatever meds you have and just do the meditation. It works. It's just you have to give it a chance. You got to keep doing it and be comfortable. It doesn't have to be sitting down in a lotus position either. You can just, I'd say 99% of the time I'm on a couch or, on like a massage table, and
Mhm.
I'm meditating there, just as comfortable as possible. You know, you don't really want to be on a bed because you associate that with sleeping. So
Right.
it might
Right.
be not that it's a bad thing. Often you will fall asleep at the end of a meditation, then it's perfectly okay. I do it at night, so I usually end up falling asleep. That's fine.
How long would you say that if you were to do it as a more daytime thing or early evening, you don't want to sleep through it. How long do you think a good meditation
I
is?
think you can do it for whatever you have the time for. So if you
Mm.
only have 3 minutes, do a 3-minute meditation.
Oh, I see.
If
Yeah.
you have the opportunity to walk from point A to point B, and that's like a 2-minute walk, if you're in a depending on where you work, if you're able to, then you can meditate while you walk. Where you're just literally making sure that you're not bumping into anything, but you're just focusing on your breath as you walk. It's just like meditating.
How
It's
long
not
have you been meditating
ideal,
for?
but I did it off and on in my 20s, and but regularly, I guess it's been about maybe I'm not really sure. I guess maybe 12 years, something like that,
Wow.
every day. Yeah.
So you think so every day you do a meditation.
Not
People
every day. Mostly
most
like
days. I've
at
heard
night. Yeah.
so much
Yeah.
about it though that, we're not, you know, in school and stuff, you're not taught these things. Like we should be taught
Mm,
these things as children because then because
yeah.
you think about our immune system, our what's the other systems we have? Our um not our immune
Well,
system.
there's
Which one? The not
what's
the
it
immune
called?
system.
I'm thinking of the
The
spine,
nervous system.
nervous system. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard
Yeah.
so much about people who've had issues with all kinds of different ailments, and it's associated
Yeah.
with their nervous system. The moment they get into meditations, they're understanding it, it calms that down, and those ailments start to dissipate, and like
Yeah.
health problems calm down and everything. So it's like,
I'm living proof of that because I had two torn rotator cuffs. I have the MRIs to prove it. And I was in so much pain for a long time, even in my episodes. They can't tell because I'm hiding it, but it was so painful. Like I couldn't move anything. And now I can, like it's no pain, no nothing, no
and
meds.
that usually no you so maybe in high states. See, I do believe a lot of people when they get in high states of stress in their life, they forget the things like meditation, taking care of themselves, and things like that, and then
Yeah.
these are
We're an
when these
energetic body. You know,
yeah.
you need to keep the energy in your body and your chakras have to be balanced. And they can go out of whack so easily here. And it's your responsibility to keep them in whack, like
Yeah.
keep your chakras intact and healthy and keeping good energy. And if you don't know anything about that, it's easy to find out about it on YouTube. And if not, the easiest way around this is just to love. If you just do that, it'll take care of everything else. Like find it in you to be super nice when you go out, whether it's on the way to the bus and you see someone, make eye contact, say hello, ask them how they're doing. You know, you're going to start to feel the effects of that very
Hmm.
quickly. Your body's going to feel better, your stomach's going to feel better, your head's going to feel better. You're going to feel so good, confident, and you'll
Yeah.
feel good about yourself too, which I know is very egotistical, but it's a good start, and a good way to vibrate high without the
Wow.
meditating and everything. If you want to take the quick route, it's the way to go. Love everybody, be nice, you
I
know.
love that. This has been
Yeah.
amazing. Do you run this podcast, right? Earth to the Other Side? Is
Yeah,
that what it's called? Earth to the Other
that's
Side.
right. Yeah.
Is that the main focus you have with what you're doing in your own spiritual work, like in your spiritual work? Some people do different things. They're healers, they're different things, right? Is that mostly what you do, or is
So,
it
well,
just
Earth to the Other Side is primarily a platform for near-death experiencers to share their stories with others. The whole point for me, starting my podcast early was, and I think it's probably similar for you based on what I know, but my main inspiration was to help people because I know how horrible fearing something that doesn't really even exist,
right?
but fearing death can really it could really limit you, and put a lot of obstacles in front of you, and it's such a senseless fear. Not to minimize this for anyone, I understand it's a real thing, but it's curable.
Yeah.
So, and when you start to listen to all these stories, you start to realize, you know, the light gets a little brighter, and you start to be a little more awake about things, and you
Yeah.
have that realization that okay, what I'm fearing is something that doesn't really exist because death is just an earth term. It's nobody dies. The dying process could really suck out loud, and that could be scary.
Yeah.
But the death part that we call death is nothing. It's not nothing, but it's not something to fear at all. It's in fact probably the most beautiful thing you'll ever experience, and
Mm.
it always, well, not always, but especially I guess the last 20 years of my life, I've find it mystifying that we make deaths, this whole death thing so negative. We should be celebrating, like, especially for those who've had a long life. It's the fact that they got there
Right.
and lived that life. Why
Right.
are we having a funeral? Why are we not like bouncing off the wall celebrating for this person's accomplishment of living this whole
Right.
time, irregardless of what they did, except for their murders or whatever. But like,
Right.
who cares about their accomplishments? The fact that they did it, we should be celebrating instead of being so sad. Yeah, we'll
Yeah.
miss them, but hey, you know what? They're in a great place. If anything, just feel a little envious.
I think the biggest thing is we definitely hold on to ego. We hold on to ourselves. We hold on to who we are and
Yeah,
this character of who we are. And I think
yeah.
that, and I can understand that why, because we build our life around it, right? We build our life
Sure.
around who we are, what we're good at, how we look, all these things. So we become attached. And I think one of the beautiful things that we could work on in life is to enjoy life, do those things, like try to look good, try to enjoy the way your vehicle while you have it, but also to understand that we're much more, so that when the day comes where we no longer have use for it, that we don't cease to exist. It's the body that ceases to exist, and we go on to
Exactly.
whatever's coming next, right? And you got
Yeah,
a glimpse of
you
it at such a young age, and yet remembered it later. I think that is like fascinating, because a lot of the people, they'll have these experiences, and it did affect them early, and it affects certain decisions and things they've done, whereas you got to kind of like live out your life in your early or teens and 20s 30s kind of thing, and then it was like, oh, but you probably always felt that connection, and that's what I mean, like there was always this,
the
because
thing
you've
of
been
it is
there.
that
Yeah.
this experience is as important as it is for all of us, because every single person here, verbal or not, is the most important piece of the puzzle. Like, nothing exists without anything else. So
Hmm.
everyone is equally important. And as important as that is, it's so small. It's tiny. This is nothing. This is a
Wow.
dream, practically. So not insignificant, but it's so small in comparison to the big picture.
Hmm.
The amount of other lives that you've already lived and that you're going to live, possibly. You
Wow.
know, it's just tiny. It's just like a tiny little thing, you know. So we shouldn't sweat it. Just enjoy every minute if we can, if we're healthy, God willing. you know, just enjoy it. Do things you wouldn't have done, you know, give yourself challenges. This is what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to like actually walk the talk right now. But I've
Right.
been in that, we've all been there where it's hard to do that.
Hmm.
But if you just do one, you'll be able to do another. And then the third time it'll be even easier. And then you'll be thinking about things that you want to do that you would have thought was never going to be possible just 2 or 3 weeks before.
Right.
So you just gotta keep doing the love thing and stop putting limitations on yourself, because you're not gonna die, you know, you're gonna transition. That's it,
Mm.
right?
So don't live in fear. That's what I get out of everything you just said. Don't live in fear,
Yeah,
and live your life the
yeah,
best that you can, right? And have those
yeah.
experiences. I have to walk that walk too, because there's a few fears in my life that I know I need to still get over, and I still need to work on that.
Sure, we all have
And
fears.
I've done
Yeah,
some pretty crazy things, playing in front of 30,000 people, or whatever
yeah,
opportunities I had that were
yeah.
just
But you feel safe
unbelievable.
with that. That's like a
That's
veil for
right.
you.
That's
Yeah,
right. Like I have people who say, they'll tell me something they did. And I'm like, I'm not doing that. And they'll be like, how did you do that? And I'm like, I know,
yeah,
right? And I feel
yeah.
great about it, but deep down, I know you're right. Exactly. I felt safe, and I felt so myself that it wasn't really a challenge for me. Like it was a challenge, but
Oh
it
yeah, it's a
wasn't,
challenge. It's
it
a
was
show.
still
It's a big show.
stressful,
Yeah.
but it's,
But once you're there, you don't see
that's
the
right.
audience. No offense, audience. You're not seen unless the lights are put on you. So
Right.
it's just you're felt, though the energy's felt, and it changes the show for sure. If it's
Yeah.
good energy. But yeah, it's
Yeah.
quite
That's
something.
that's
Yeah.
crazy. The podcast itself though, is that how people would connect with you if they're interested in your experience and your story? Is that the easiest way to
Sure.
get in
Yeah, they can
contact with you?
connect with me on YouTube or on Facebook, Instagram. I'm
Or
not on Instagram very much, but if you really did want to connect with me, you could do that there as well.
yeah.
But yeah,
That's
on the
amazing.
show, you can connect with me in the comments. I read through every single comment. I respond to every comment. So
Well, I'm gonna have to check out your channel now. Like I said at the beginning of the show,
yeah, same
when I
here. Yeah,
when I heard from you, I was like, okay, this guy's doing the same, some similar things I'm doing, but I'm not gonna go dig in because I love meeting people and
yeah,
finding
me
their
too.
energy as I go. It's just something I do, and
Yeah, it's fresh. Yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
The last question I always ask everybody, and it's just the way that I end all my shows, and I'm actually curious about your. You kind of touched on this a little bit, so it won't be too much of anything new. But if you were to sum up, and maybe this has come up in a meditation of yours, I don't know, um, in a grand scheme of things, in the large picture of us, of you, of me, of everything going on, what do you believe is our main reason for this level of incarnation, where we are now in this realm? Because I do believe in different realms. I believe there's different existences of ourselves. I have no idea. I'm just throwing that out there, but I feel it.
oh, there are definitely
But I'm always
many.
curious about this because it's such an interesting place to be, and I'm
Yeah.
wondering what your outlook is as to what is our reasoning.
Evolution of the soul. The Earth is, as far as I understand, and what I think to be true is what as we mentioned earlier. It's a very dense place to be. There's a lot of emotions, a lot of anger, frustration, jealousy, all these things that don't exist in other realms. And I think that I think that all of us here are pretty evolved souls already. Uh, we come here to evolve our soul. I mean, it's a school for our souls, right? So
Mm.
you can't we can't learn it because over there, all that exists is love, from what I can understand. It's just love, and all the rest has to be learned, kind of thing. And we're all pieces of the bigger picture. We're all little fragments of this source that wants to learn
Mm.
these things. And so I think we're evolving our souls, but I think all our souls are connected. And at the end of the day, it's just this one big, massive like consciousness that we're all a part of. You know,
I love that.
it's
My soul wants to ask a quick bonus question.
sure.
Um,
Take all these answers with a grain of salt. I mean, I'm not an expert in any of this, not even close. It's just
no, but it's what
stuff
comes
that I get
through.
in
We're all part
meditation.
of whatever we are, and I can tell you're speaking with authenticity. So the uh, the state of the world. I'm an optimist, right? So everyone that's known me, I've always kind of glass half full kind of person. I always see
Mm.
the positivity, or I see the general positive end game. I don't know why. I When I'm in the other space, it's not good. So I'd rather always be that way.
Yeah, it's a
And
better place to be. Yeah.
I'm curious, if your feeling is, I feel like we're moving in a higher vibration. I don't understand how that looks the way it does sometimes right now.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering if you're feeling that, or what your feelings are around that.
Yeah. I think that there's definitely a high vibrational something happening right now. Part of this people call the shift, maybe. This is like very fifth dimensional and beyond stuff, but I think that's where we're heading, and I don't think everyone's heading there at the same time,
Mm.
which may explain why we see certain things in other countries that we don't necessarily see here. But at the same time, I see stuff happening here that's a little scary, and sometimes I wonder. But I think that everything is just meant to be, and it's part of the bigger picture. Like everything that happens is happening for a reason.
Mm.
I have to believe that because at the same time, I do see and notice a lot of the higher vibrational, things that are going on around me, and it's very positive. And I think that, as I mentioned earlier, the the best way to change the world, and I know this sounds very idealistic, but if we want things to change, we have to start understanding our connection to the universe, and we have to understand that love is really as crazy as I'm thinking like the 1960s hippies kind of thing. It sounds very hippie,
Right.
but it's true. They had it right, in my opinion. It's really about spreading love and just constant accepting love of yourself, and moving forward with that vibration. That's what's going to change things, because everything's going to domino effect. Everything's going to ripple effect off that vibration. And
Yeah.
that's when everything shifts. That's why I think they call it the shift. It's going to happen very quickly, you know.
Yeah.
It's happening slowly, but it's gonna boom. We're gonna be in a new dimension completely, and much
I
better.
feel I can't help but feel the same way. And one little piece of one thing I say to some people I talk to when they're feeling kind of like, what is going on? You know, it's kind of that concept of we can't see the light without knowing what darkness feels like. We can't see the, like, sometimes you need darkness to see the light. And I'm not
Yeah.
saying we want to stay in that darkness, but I feel like you said it perfect that everything happens for a reason, everything's going on.
Hmm.
As long as we're progressing, then that's where we should be. And so that's how I see it. But we all have to take a piece of that. We can't sit around and hope for the best either. Like, you have to be a part of that. So that's
To be a
why
part of that, and we have to be careful with our words, because things that we say, whether it's to a person directly or indirectly, it goes out there and it doesn't come back. Everything is recorded. Everything
mm,
you've seen, touched, smelt is in there, thankfully stored and archived properly. Otherwise, you would go insane.
yeah,
But we have to be very mindful of how we speak to others, because, and we learn this when we're kids. Try to treat others how you want to be treated, right? And I wish they would just keep honing in on that, because that's what's going to change
mm,
us, nothing else. No level of government and policy is going to do it. It's us.
right.
We have the power to do that. And a lot of us are doing it. You're doing it.
You're doing it as
I'm
well.
trying to do it.
Yeah.
If we
Yeah.
all do it, it's going to make a huge difference. One, one,
Wow.
one person at a time, Yeah.
I love that, John, man. I'm gonna leave it at that. That was an
All
amazing way
right.
to end this episode. But I would encourage everyone to go check out your channel, check out your interviews, and
Thanks, man. Appreciate
just
that.
love your tonality and the way that you kind of explain things. So for everybody else, for the audience, please continue to like, share, and subscribe to the Soul Inspired, and other podcasts that are sending out positive vibes and messages, because this is why we do it. It's a good feeling
Awesome.
for us, but it's a better feeling for me to know people are actually seeing these and sharing these experiences, or even conversations with
Hmm.
people that need it. So, but
Yeah.
thanks again, John, for being on. I really
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
Blessings to you, and you're doing a great job, man. Keep it up. Keep it up.
Thanks so much. That's
I'm gonna
awesome.
check out your channel too.